The topic of abortion came up during Representative Tim Ryan's debate with Republican opponent J.D. Vance. They're both running for a Senate seat in the state of Ohio. And it was fun to watch J.D. Vance squirm over his incredibly unpopular stance of forced pregnancies and childbirth for women in America. So let's watch how it went down.
We read at least a couple articles every week of young people, underage girls who have been raped, or women who have had significant problems with their pregnancy, not be able to get help in the state. They got to go to Indiana, they got to go to Illinois, and that's not good enough for J.D. Vance. He supports a national abortion ban in which he wants women to have to get a passport and go to Canada. Like, we've got to have some moderation on this issue. He's got a very extreme position. J.D., you called rape inconvenient, right? Rape is not inconvenient. It's a significant tragedy. And he thinks that we should have Ohio state law, which says if you're raped or incest, pregnant through incest, that you should be forced to have the baby.
Well, first of all, I did not call rape inconvenient. Congressman Ryan knows that's not true.
You have said in the past that you compared abortion to slavery, even in the case of the 10-year-old Ohio girl that made headlines across the country. You said two wrongs don't make a right. It sounds tonight as if you're saying there are some exceptions I would accept. Can you specifically tell us what you might accept as an exception?
Look, I've always believed in reasonable exceptions. This is a misrepresentation of my view.
Oh, it's a misrepresentation of your views, except it's not. Now, this is what political candidates often do. And my job is to make sure that people are informed on what the reality is. They will stand there and lie to the American people, lie to their constituents with a straight face, and that's what J.D. Vance did there. So what's the reality? Okay, well, Tim Ryan brought up the fact that Vance had referred to pregnancies that occur through rape as inconvenient. Inconvenient. Vance said, I didn't say that. Did he? Let's go to this Washington Post piece from about a year ago, September 24th, 2021. Written by John Wagner. Ohio Senate candidate J.D. Vance argues against need for rape and incest exceptions in abortion laws. Fascinating. Did the word inconvenient come up at all in this story? Yeah, looks like it did. So Vance defended the Texas abortion law and argued against the need for exceptions for rape and incest in such restrictive statutes, downplaying such circumstances as inconvenient. Inconvenient is in quotation marks because J.D. Vance used the word inconvenient. Let me continue. When asked during a local interview whether abortion laws should include exceptions for rape and incest, Vance, a Republican, said he thinks two wrongs don't make a right. Oh no, J.D., looks like you've actually addressed this in multiple statements. So it's not just the inconvenient thing. You also said two wrongs don't make a right. Woman gets raped, she doesn't wanna carry a rapist's baby for 9 months and then put her body through the trauma of delivering that rapist baby? Well, we should just tell her two wrongs don't make a right. Let's continue. He said, quote, it's not whether a woman should be forced to bring a child to term. It's whether a child should be allowed to live even though the circumstances of that child's birth are somehow inconvenient or a problem to the society, Vance told Spectrum News in Columbus, Ohio. So he lied. And it's interesting because much like his previous harsh criticism for Donald Trump and how he later flip-flopped when he realized it would be politically advantageous to flip-flop, he's now flip-flopping on this issue. He's squirming on stage, lying to his own constituents because fact of the matter is he doesn't really have any values or any principles. I mean, he's willing to do and say anything just to get that sweet, sweet power. I mean, just this guy is Gollum. But he's not unique. I mean, you see this all across the political spectrum. Politicians who will lie, politicians who have no original thought or original ideas, who have no real political identity. They just want the power. And that's who J.D. Vance is. It is incredible. Now, he was squirming so much. He's like, I don't know. I don't want to talk about abortion anymore. I need to pivot. I need to deflect. And what better way to deflect than to go into the topic of immigration? Now, let me set this up a little bit. Remember, not too long ago, we were talking about an incredibly young child, a girl who was raped and needed an abortion at the age of 10. And since she wasn't able to get an abortion in her state, she had to travel out of state to get an abortion. Now, Republicans wanted to deny that that story was real. It turned out that it was real. Weird that Republicans wanted to deny it was real, though. I mean, if you're a Republican who thinks that everyone should be forced to carry a pregnancy to term, no exceptions, shouldn't you proudly boast about how you believe in that policy, even in an instance where a 10-year-old girl is pregnant from a rape? But JD Vance, feels real uncomfortable addressing that topic. And he just wants to pivot. How did he pivot to immigration? Well, let's watch how he did it.
Why was a 10-year-old girl raped in our community, raped in our state in the first place? The thing the media and Congressman Ryan, they talk about this all the time. The thing they never mentioned is that poor girl was raped by an illegal alien, somebody that should have never been in this state in the first place. You voted so many times against border wall funding, so many times for amnesty, Tim. If you had done your job, she would have never been raped in the first place. Do your job on border security. Don't lecture me about opinions I don't actually have.
So we're not having a conversation about immigration. We're having a conversation about a woman, a girl, I shouldn't say a woman, a girl, literal girl, 10-year-old, who was raped and then became pregnant as a result of that rape. So how about address that? But he doesn't want to address that. He mentions the fact that the perpetrator in this instance happened to be an undocumented immigrant from Guatemala, who happened to be living in Ohio for 7 years. 7 years. I thought Donald Trump was the boss when it came to dealing with undocumented immigrants. What happened? What happened? And by the way, are we really gonna pretend like we don't have issues of rape in this country? That it's just an immigrant-related issue? And as you know, we've talked about the studies, we've shown you the statistics indicating that perpetrators of crime tend to not be undocumented immigrants. Sure, you can cherry pick specific cases to make your point and fearmonger about undocumented immigrants in this country. But I don't know, this guy was in Ohio for 7 years. Obviously, while Trump was president, while Republicans had power in Congress, I'd like to know why Republican lawmakers fearmonger about immigration, yet do absolutely nothing to reform our immigration system. But one other thing I want to mention is, JD Vance brought up the border, because the border is the most important thing when it comes to combating undocumented immigration, right? Except it's not, and it hasn't been for a long, long time. So you want to throw money at a border wall, great, fine, do it. But that's not going to combat their concerns with undocumented immigrants in this country. So overstays, meaning people who came into the country and overstayed their visas, accounted for only 34% of illegal entries into the United States in 2004. But by 2014, they made up 66% of new entries. The study estimates 42% of the 11 million immigrants believed to be living in the United States illegally as of 2014, had overstayed their visa. So the numbers, I would imagine, have gotten higher because that is how the majority of people come into the country and remain in the country. They don't cross the border, they fly in either as tourists or otherwise, and they just stay, they overstay their visas. So if you want to throw money at a border wall and you think that's the end all be all, they just love it. It's a symbol for them. That's all it is. It's just a tangible symbol for them that clears them of actually having to do anything in regard to immigration reform. But look, JD Vance wanted us to talk about immigration so we can ignore the fact that a 10-year-old girl became pregnant from a rape and the Republican Party wants to absolutely force her to carry a rapist child for 9 months and then put her small 10-year-old body through the trauma of either a C-section, where a doctor rips open her abdomen to take out a fetus, or forces her to have a vaginal birth. JD Vance, on the record, thinking that everyone, including 10-year-old rape victims, should be forced into a potential vaginal birth. No, let's call a spade a spade. Let's get real graphic about what the Republican Party wants to put a little girl's body through just so they can earn political brownie points among their evangelical religious zealot base. That's who they are, and that's why JD Vance is squirming there, because when he's up on that stage, when he actually has to defend his point of view, it gets real tough. In fact, it gets so tough that even his own campaign manager squirms when he's asked about the issue. Let's watch.
Get more clarity from Vance after the debate in the spin room. But unlike Ryan, who did take our questions directly, Vance himself did not show up. He sent his chief strategist instead, and here's part of my exchange with him.
You didn't give a broad statement on what he would accept as exceptions.
He'll talk about those.
Then why isn't he here to answer that?
Well, he went to a debate, and he absolutely does talk to the press at all times. I mean, I'm not the candidate, but the candidate will be at the debate next week, and there'll be plenty of times to talk about more specifics on abortion.
So you don't know what his stance is on abortion?
I'm not prepared to answer that specific question, no.
Still trying to get some clarity on this from the campaign. Again, this is a candidate whose website says he wants to end abortion. That is a headline on his issues page.
Nah, you're not gonna get a straight answer from them. Because JD Vance, again, has no real political identity other than I want power. I will do and say whatever I think is convenient in accumulating that power. And when you're up on that debate stage knowing full well that somewhere between 70 to 80% of Americans do not want to outlaw abortion, it gets very difficult to say, no exceptions, no exceptions, no exceptions. He's a real tough guy when he's talking to Spectrum News in Ohio. Not a tough guy on that debate stage. And definitely not a tough guy when it comes to, I don't know, having a little bit of self-respect and, not allowing Donald Trump to continuously humiliate him. But maybe he deserves to be humiliated. It's certainly fun to watch.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.